Hello students, this is, I believe, one of the more final lectures for tonight, and this is again taken from the Sue and Sue book. I believe this is lecture 7. I don't know if I'm ordering them properly, but I think there's some logic to the numbers. This is an important chapter. It's chapter number 6, and it has to do with comprehending and understanding microaggressions. There is a pretty rich and interesting case history that starts the chapter about a client called Kiana, and then the authors discuss what is meant by microaggressions. The term originally began with was coined by this I believe sociologist Chester Pierce to describe the quote subtle and often automatic put downs that African Americans face. Since then, the definition has expanded to apply to any marginalized group. Microaggressions can be defined as brief, everyday exchanges that send denigrating messages to our target group, such as people of color, religious minorities, people with disabilities, gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender individuals, and so on. The microaggressions are often subtle in nature and can be manifested in verbal, nonverbal, or behavioral realm. Basically, they happen all of the time. The authors on page 184 do a differentiation of different ways that microaggressions can take place. And they have a way of understanding that some of them are overt intentional, some of them are overt unintentional, others of them are covert intentional, and others are covert unintentional. So as culturally sensitive psychotherapists, we'd like to be aware of all the different ways that these microaggressions can manifest. I think the goal is to not do so in order to police ourselves and to censor ourselves, but to become more open and receptive and communicative with ourselves and with others about when these enactments happen and how to process them and discuss them, because all of us are deeply embedded in all kinds of isms and ideologies and worldviews, and there's no way to address it but through getting the training and getting the practice, but also having an attitude of receptivity, which is one way of understanding cultural competence. There's a pretty thorough discussion on page 187 about different kinds of microaggressions. Micro-assault on page 188, micro-insult, page 189, micro-invalidation. Please read those. And then you'll see on pages 191, 192, and 193 some really good examples of different categories of microaggressions: alien in one's own land, ascription of intelligence, color blindness, assumption of criminality, use of sexist, heterosexist language, denial of individual racism, myth of meritocracy, and so on. Then there's another series of elaborate discussions on different ways that the dilemma of microaggressions can manifest. Page 185, clash of socio-demographic realities, the invisibility, dilemma number 2 of unintentional expressions of bias, dilemma number 3, perceived minimal harm of microaggressions, which is again a kind of microaggression, and then counseling implications. You will notice that there is actually a really cool graph on 204, 205, and 206, which discuss examples of microaggressions in therapeutic practice. Just to give you an example as to how common they are, you might read these and go, oh my goodness, I hope these people didn't graduate from Antioch. But these are mistakes we all make, and it's good to take a look at this, because you'll be surprised at how powerful your reactions are, I would imagine, but also you might give yourself a little bit of permission to understand that it's inevitable that this will happen. The issue is then how to respond. The summary is, again, all these summaries are pithy and short and get to the point. Page 207, microaggressions represent daily stresses in the lives of marginalized groups in the United States. The literal explosion of research on microaggressions in the last 5 years, which is really when this area of thought has developed, has grown to include cultural identities beyond race. Clients trust mental health professionals to take an intimate and deeply personal journey of self-exploration with them through the process of therapy. They grant these professionals the opportunity to look into their inner world and also invite them to walk where they live in their everyday lives. Therapists and counselors have an obligation to their clients, especially when the clients differ from them in terms of race, gender, ability, religion, and so forth, to work to understand their experiential reality. There is evidence to suggest that microaggressions are everyday experiences too innumerable to count, which is what I've been saying. The therapeutic relationship is not immune from these experiences. However, research suggests that when therapist and client are able to successfully discuss the microaggression, the therapeutic alliance can be restored. So basically, it's a kind of cohesion idea that the narcissistic injury is inevitable. There'll first be some form of idealizing, but that the therapist and the client will notice that there's a rupture. The rupture, according to Kohut, is the way in which then the repair actually helps to build up a greater sense of self. I think he calls it transmuting internalization. So here we can take Kohut's concept of working with the repair and developing empathy for self and the client and harness that to our conceptualizations of cultural sensitivity and the working out of differences between the client and the therapist and the working out of the microaggressions. There is much work to be done to better understand the nuances and processes involved in the complex phenomena. I just gave my little spin on how to bring in the psychodynamic, which the book does not do. Therapists and counselors are in a position to learn from their clients, which is again a cohesion psychological perspective, about microaggressions and their relationship to the client's presenting concerns and developmental issues. It is imperative to encourage clients to explore their feelings. Is that a microaggression? About incidents that involve their race, gender, and sexual orientation so that the status quo of silence and invisibility can be destroyed. So that sums it up for our lecture for today. Thank you for being so patient, and I'd like to see how you have processed these. I don't know, you can call them maybe a little silly, maybe they were informative, maybe there were little flashes of insight, maybe they bore you to tears. So any reactions that you have, but also any way that you can collate some of the information and process paper for me would be greatly appreciated. It's been a pleasure to reach out to you in this way, but it's no replacement for the real thing. Okay, until later, bye.